Welcome to What is Truth, brought to you by the Southern New Mexico Church of God in Las Cruces, New Mexico. What is Truth is a weekly program which seeks to focus our attention on the truth of God's Word. Now, with this week's lesson, here's Pastor Meyer Stahl.
Welcome to the program. I'm Meyer Stahl, the pastor of the Southern New Mexico Church of God, bringing you the program, What is Truth? Our topic today is What is Predestination, Part 2. Now, we did Part 1 last week. If you missed it, please turn to the YouTube channel and type in What is Truth with Meyer Stahl. You can watch over 500 different programs with different topics. And you could watch Predestination Part 1 and then watch Predestination Part 2, and it'll make it very clear to you what predestination is all about. Now, before we get started, we want to offer two very important booklets. The first being Predestination, Does the Bible Teach It? And at the bottom of the booklet, it says, is your ultimate fate decided for you in advance? No subject has baffled, perplexed, and worried people more. Here, for the first time, many will read the astonishing truth as so plain all can understand. It'll make it so easy to understand it. And the second booklet is Just What Do You Mean Born Again? People talk about, I'm born again. Are you born again? At the bottom of the booklet it says, don't be too sure you know. Many religious people talk about being born again, yet they don't really know what Christ meant by those words. The truth is surprising, startling, here made so plain you will understand. Now, you could order these two booklets. All you need to do is call us at area code 575-650-7359. Now, if you didn't write it down, why don't you stop for a moment, get a pen and some paper. We'll announce it again as we go along, and you'll be able to write it down. They're absolutely free. We pay the postage. We never ask the public for money, and we're happy to send them to you. They are biblical. Anytime you read any booklets, always read it with your open Bible to make sure it's biblically correct. Now we're going to get started. We're going to the Bible, and let's go to Romans chapter 8, and we're starting with verse 28. That's Romans 8, verse 28, and it says here, and we know that all things work together for good to them who love God, to them who are the called. Look, you see that word called? That's important about predestination. Who are called according to his purpose. For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called. It's a calling. And whom he called, them he also justified. You're justified by faith. and to whom he justified, them he also glorified. Now, glorification will come when Jesus Christ comes. Then we'll be glorified at that point. So we'll stop there. Now, I want to do a little explanation. First, I want to just do a little explaining about what I did last week. I want to recap a little bit about predestination. I'll tell you what predestination is not. Predestination is not whether you're saved or lost. It has nothing to do with whether you're going to be saved or going to be lost. It has to do with your calling. Now, some people feel, well, you know, mom and dad were good people and they always went to church, but we're not sure if they were saved. And a lot of people just stress about mom and dad, and grandma and grandpa, and my sister or my brother, they died. I don't know if they were saved. Well, stop stressing about it. God is going to work out his predestination at the best time for you and me. Okay? We're called at the best time in our life. That's the most important thing I want you to remember. Now, we're going to go to the next scripture, and that's Revelation chapter 20. So if you'll turn in your Bibles, and you could read with me, and we'll read chapter 20, and we'll start with verse 4. And here it says in chapter 20, verse 4, "And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus." You know, I'll stop there for a moment. If you witness for Jesus in many places around this world, you're just liable to lose your head. And that's a fact. Let's go back to the Bible. They were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads. So this is future. Were in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. You see that? 1,000 years is called the millennium. Now, we're going to pass verse 5. We'll come back to it, but we're going to go directly to verse 6. And that says, "Blessed and holy is he who has part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years." So it pretty much repeats it, right? Now let's go back to verse 5. "But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished." Period. See the period there? Now, this sentence, "this is the first resurrection," that belongs to verse 6. The chapters of verses were not put in the Bible till much later than the Bible was written. So this is put in the wrong spot. This is the first resurrection. Let's read it with verse 6. So it would be at the beginning of verse 6 would be the proper place for it. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he who has part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. Now we'll stop there. Anytime you read about the first of anything, my firstborn child, means I must have at least one more. I must have at least a secondborn. I could have a third or fourth or fifth or sixth. But when I use the word first, that means there's more to follow. Okay? Now, verse 5 is the second resurrection. I know it doesn't say the second resurrection, but it is the second resurrection. So let's look at it very carefully one more time. But the rest of the dead live not again. So they're going to live again. They're going to come back. Okay? That's the second resurrection. When does this happen? Until the 1,000 years were finished. So they have to wait in their graves for 1,000 years, and then they're going to come up again. They're going to have a second chance at life. Most ministers, pastors, teachers will not teach verse 5. We'll stop there. Why won't they teach verse 5? Because too many questions come up that they can't answer. All right? So we're going to start answering some of those questions. Now, last week we talked about the valley of dry bones in Ezekiel chapter 37. And here Ezekiel's brought out into a valley. There's a whole bunch of bones out there. And God asks Ezekiel, can these bones live? Ezekiel says, well, I don't know. You know. And God says, yes, they can. And he brings them back to life. They're standing up. He gives them breath, and they're breathing. And he says, these bones are the whole house of Israel. All of the Israelites who have ever lived are being brought back up and given their first chance at salvation. This is not a second chance at salvation. Nobody gets a second chance at salvation. This is a first chance. They never had a first chance at salvation. Most of the Israelites lived before Jesus Christ. There's no other name under heaven whereby men could be saved except the name Jesus Christ. Now there's millions, perhaps billions of people today that have not even heard the name Jesus Christ. There's 1,250,000,000 Muslims who do not use the name Jesus Christ. And there's billions of Russians, Chinese, communism, North Korea, who don't believe in Jesus Christ, who don't teach Jesus Christ, who are atheists, who are agnostics, and their people do not know who Jesus Christ is. Well, God brought people into this world, and to be fair about it, He's got to give them a first chance at an only chance at salvation. Now, predestination it's not predetermination. They're not determined to be saved. You have free moral agency to accept salvation or reject salvation. That's entirely up to you. So we are going to take a short break Please don't go away. We will be right back.
Hi, I'm Ray Bamberg with Here on Earth. I would like to invite you for a free hearing evaluation to our office. We've been here in southern New Mexico for 34 years helping people hear better.
Do you suffer from rashes, dryness, flakiness, and thickness to the skin? 3A Research is conducting a trial of an investigational drug on plaque psoriasis. Subjects must be 18 years of age or older. This is an 8-week study. We will compensate you for your time and travel up to $225.
Enrolling participants now in Las Cruces. Contact our office at 575-288-1646 or visit our Facebook page at 3A Research or our website 3asites.com.
Welcome back to the program. In case you tuned in late, our topic today is What is Predestination? Part 2. Now you could access Part 1 by going on our YouTube channel. You go on YouTube and type in What is Truth with Meyer Stahl, and you can watch over 500 different programs with different topics. And you can watch Predestination, What is Predestination? Part 1. And then if you'd like, you can watch Part 2, so you could put them both together and really understand predestination. Now, Adam and Eve were predestinated. Now, how were they predestinated? Do you recall God brought all the animals over to Adam to see what he would name them? And he named each animal. Look at the vocabulary that Adam had. Could you name all those animals? I know I couldn't. He had an education far beyond what we have today. He understood. Now, when they sinned, they sewed fig leaves to themselves. Where did they get the needle and the thread? That's a good question, isn't it? Okay. So Adam and Eve had their opportunity for salvation. All they had to do was keep their hands off of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and they would be able to eat from the tree of life and have eternal life. So they had their opportunity way back then. They had their calling way back then. They were predestinated way back then. So you come up with an understanding about predestination. It's a calling. So God calls you at the best time that you are able to make the right decision in accepting that call. Many are called and few are chosen. What do you have to do to be chosen? Well, you have to respond. You have to come back and respond. Let's go now to Isaiah chapter 65. Now, this whole section that we're going to read, there's only one place, just one place in the Bible where it fits. And it fits in Revelation chapter 20, verse 5, where it says the rest of the dead came back to life after the 1,000 years were finished. That's the only place it fits. Let's read it. For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth. Now, wait a second. Where did Isaiah come up with this new heavens and new earth? Let's stop there for a minute. Where did he come up with it? We don't read about new heavens and new earth until we read Revelation chapter 21 and chapter 22. Well, God told them about the new heavens and the new earth. That's where he came up with it. God explained them that there would be new heavens and a new earth. Let's go back. Let's go back and read the rest. And the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind. But be you glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy. And I will rejoice in Jerusalem, and joy in my people, and the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying. Is that true today? No, it's not. There shall be no more there an infant of days, nor an old man that has not filled his days. So this is going to be the lifespan of those people in that day. Be careful, watch it. For the child shall die 100 years old. So this is 100-year lifespan. But the sinner, being 100 years old, shall be accursed. So this is 100 years lifespan that takes place after the millennium, after these people are resurrected and given their first chance at salvation. Let's read verse 21. And they shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people. So that's long life. God's given these people long life and an opportunity for salvation that they never had before. And mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble. For they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, and their offspring, that's their children, grandchildren, with them. And it shall come to pass, before they call, I will answer. Before they even call, God's going to answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together. Now, the wolf usually eats the lamb. And the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, says the Lord. Wow, this is good news. We're stopping there. So predestination is actually very simple. It's simple to understand. God knows when the best time to call you and me. He knows it. I was called some 50 years ago. God called me, and I wish he would have called me sooner. But he called me at a time that I was receptive, and I answered that call. And he'll call you. He might be calling you right now, right this moment. This might be your calling right now. So you have the opportunity to answer that call, to be chosen and given that opportunity for salvation right now. So why don't you take a moment, write down the phone number and order these two very important booklets, Predestination, Does the Bible teach it? And the second booklet is just what do you mean born again? And you can have these two booklets just by calling us at area code 575-650-7359. Predestination is very easy to understand. God's working with you, He's working with me, and He wants us to understand our calling. So many are called, as I said before, and few are chosen. You might have your opportunity right now to be called. Now, in Acts chapter 2, all Israel had been given the opportunity to come to Jerusalem. They were called to come to Jerusalem. Some 1 to 2 million Jews from all over the world came to Jerusalem to keep the Feast of Pentecost. We call it Pentecost. But back in the Old Testament, it was called the Feast of First Fruits. It was called the Feast of Weeks. It was 7 weeks. It was counted from Passover to 7 weeks later was Pentecost. So they're all gathered together and they're being taught about Jesus Christ. And God is explaining to them through Peter, is giving them the explanation, and he says, you must repent, which means go to God and ask Him to forgive all your sins. And God will forgive all of your sins if you are honest about it. And you tell God, I don't want to sin anymore. I don't want to break your laws anymore. And then every single one of you be baptized. That's what it says there in Acts chapter 2, read verses 38 on. And you shall receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. That's what gives you eternal life. So why don't you think about it? Why don't you pray about it? Ask God to help you to come into His kingdom, to come into His family, and He wants you in His kingdom. He wants you in His family. Until next time, this is Meyer Stahl of the Southern New Mexico Church of God saying goodbye, my friends.
You have been listening to What is Truth with Pastor Meyer Stahl of the Southern New Mexico Church of God, located in Las Cruces, New Mexico. For copies of today's lesson or for more information, call area code 575-650-7359. That's 575-650-7359. Join us next week at this same time for another edition of What is Truth? Until next week, we wish you God's richest blessings.